everyone, and welcome to our first February installment of the Rankings Report. As always, we're wrapping up the latest action and previewing what's to come, all with an eye towards the official UFC rankings. Forrest, care to tell us what those are?
Yes. Each week, a panel of top journalists ranks the top UFC athletes by weight class and overall, and the results are revealed Wednesdays on UFC Tonight.
On this episode, we'll be looking at the rankings out January 29th. So, since the last time we talked, Stipe Miocic has broken the record for most heavyweight title defenses in the UFC after defeating Francis Ngannou. He's moved up 3 spots in the pound-for-pound list to number 4, and Forrest, we've got to ask, does this mean he's the greatest heavyweight of all time?
It does. I mean, it's simple. It's like numbers, right? So before he had like 3 defenses, this is only his 3rd defense, right? Which is crazy, but the only 3 defenses makes him the best. But maybe he can get that 4th.
Well, we know that Stipe is matched up with Daniel Cormier, who fought earlier this month at UFC 220. He's now 3rd on the pound-for-pound list after he retained his title against number 2 Volkan Ozdemir. And we learned his next bout is against Stipe for the heavyweight strap. Is that the right move for Daniel Cormier, though?
Absolutely. I mean, he's fought at heavyweight. He's had more than half his career at heavyweight. This is that, you know, people talk about these money fights or these super fights. I'm a fan of super fights, and this is a super fight that I'm excited to see, and I think it could be a really good matchup.
Sometimes with super fights, people say, oh, you're holding up 2 belts.
Yes.
This could potentially free 2 belts if Daniel Cormier wins and retires.
There would be no better exit to the sport than that. You could not, literally, you could not be more on top than to go out with 2 belts, which would make both divisions wide open.
You like a super fight.
Super fights, if you think about boxing, where people avoid each other because there's a couple pounds difference. In the UFC super fight, you have people that are relatively close in size fighting each other, so you truly get to see who the best of the best is. And that's why I like these super fights.
And interesting for Cormier's situation here, as he gets older, he is nearing 40 years old, he says he doesn't want to fight after 40, is the fact that he won't have to have that first fight, which is the battle with the scale. And for him, that's usually the tougher fight than getting into the octagon.
Yeah, he's not a huge guy, but for whatever reason, his body does not want to give up that extra weight. You know, this is going to be his favorite fight to prepare for because he's going to go into it well-fueled.
Yes.
If you get my drift.
Yes.
I mean, he's going to eat a lot because he likes to eat.
He does. Well, at UFC Fight Night in Charlotte, number 3 Jacare Souza quickly beat Derek Brunson. Did this performance reestablish him as next in line after the belt gets unified?
Possibly, but I just want to point out, as much as I do love Jacare, we didn't really get to see a good sample size of his work. Derek Brunson apparently doesn't like to fight out of the first round, win or lose, he just doesn't. I think Jacare could be the old Jacare, but I haven't seen it yet. One thing I do know is Jacare is the guy I would like to fight most because after he knocked me out, he'd be real gentle about how many times. Both fights where he knocked Derek Brunson out, he was literally like, is he done? Okay, cool.
I mean, when he threw that kick, he knew what was coming, and he didn't even rush over there.
He slow walked over and was like, yeah, ref, as soon as you've seen enough, this guy's done.
Let me know. Let me know.
Classy guy. What a great human being.
At UFC 221 on February 10th, we see Yoel Romero, who's ranked number 1, take on Luke Rockhold, who's ranked number 2. How do they match up?
Well, it's a great matchup. I'm not really sure. You would think that Rockhold would have the advantage striking. He is a little longer. He's more of an experienced kickboxer. However, Romero, very unorthodox, quicker than you think, and he always has that takedown in his back pocket. Now, with that said, Rockhold works out with big, strong people in DC, so good wrestlers. So I think it's a really good matchup. These are, again, the best 2 people in that division that don't have the belt. So it's fitting that it is the fight for the belt.
UFC 221 will mark the UFC debut of middleweight Israel Adesanya, the 11-0 New Zealander. Now, with knockouts in all of his wins, this guy has the kind of local buzz that Conor McGregor had in Ireland before his debut. For us, he is the style bender. How long until we see him in the rankings?
I don't think it's going to be long before we see him in the rankings. He's one of the best stand-up guys I've ever seen do this. He's pretty amazing. I did watch a couple of his previous MMA fights, and I see what the buzz is. He is quick, he's athletic, he's mean when he needs to be. I saw him call Rob Wilkinson out in another promotion. So let's before I throw him up in the top 10, which I obviously want to do, let's make sure he gets past fellow Australian, New Zealand type guy, Rob Wilkinson.
So tomorrow night at UFC Fight Night in Brazil, Valentina Shevchenko, the #1 ranked women's bantamweight, will make her flyweight debut. Forrest, how do you think she'll look at this new weight class?
She's going to look great. You just said she's the #1 ranked bantamweight. She's moving down. She didn't have to cut a lot of weight for 135. And even though she was the smaller, or at least lighter, fighter at bantamweight, she seemed to have no trouble with strength. She was, she took people down. She armbarred Juliana Pena, who I know is super strong.
Yeah, in fact, I actually, every time I've spoken to her opponents post-fight, whether they've won or lost against Valentina, they always say that something that surprises them is her speed and her strength. So
Yes.
it'll be interesting to see how that translates to 125. Well, it's Groundhog Day, and while the UFC has a Mighty Mouse, a Dirty Bird, and a Vanilla Gorilla, we've never actually had a groundhog on our roster. That would be super fun and a great nickname. So on this episode's Unranked, we look at our favorite all-time fighter nicknames. I'm going to go first. I'm going to go with Tamna McCrory, who is the Barn Cat.
Close to the groundhog, but not quite. But
Right.
awesome.
I'm not sure why he's the Barn Cat. It's sort of a terribly great nickname because
It's amazing.
it's not scary. It's very random. Like,
No, he's tough. The barn cat is tough. Nothing, scares them off, and that's very much like him.
yeah, it is, and I just appreciate that he wears it with pride, the Barn
Oh,
Cat.
I love it. I'm gonna go old school. BJ Penn, the Prodigy. There was a genesis to that nickname because he walked in, and within 2 years, they were like, "Oh my God, this kid's." He was literally like a prodigy.
Yeah.
Like, I almost think of Prodigy as child pianist, but he was a jiu-jitsu prodigy.
Yeah, or that band from the 90s.
Oh yeah.
My next one is Akiyama's Sexy Yama, because it's just great.
Yeah, no, and I guess fitting.
Yeah, he shows up like spray tan to the nth degree, wearing a bedazzled jean jacket and sparkly pants. And he calls himself Sexy Yama. He refers to himself as Sexy Yama, even in interviews sometimes. I love it. One of the best. Who's
My
for
next
you?
one's going to be Marcus Davis, so the Irish hand grenade.
Ooh, yes.
Pretty cool.
Yes, that's actually
He
a great
doesn't
one.
have the grenade tattoo on his hand like so many of the kids today do, yet he did have the nickname first.
There's still time. My next one I'm going to go with, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back with this one, Andre Touchy Feely. So Andre's nickname used to be the Fury Feely. I was like, your last name's Feely. Why aren't you Touchy Feely? And then he took it on, and people call him Touchy Feely, and I'm giving myself all the credit.
Let's
Whatever,
go
fine.
again, old school. Randy Couture, the natural, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know why he or how he got that nickname, just being naturally good at something, even though he'd been doing it for 15 years.
Then there's these groups of nicknames that when
Oh,
Forrest and I
yes.
were talking about this, sort of came up. There's so many pit bulls.
A lot of pit bulls, and not just the singing kind.
No, let's add him on top of it. Andre Arlovsky, Thiago Alves, Ben Correa.
And probably somewhere forgetting.
Oh, there's so many pit bulls. And we've got like all the Brazilian.
Who actually win at nicknaming.
Yeah, because our Brazilian fighters, we refer to their nicknames as their first name. Jacare Souza, Shogun, Minotauro.
Cyborg.
Yeah, Brazil, you win at the nickname
Yeah.
game because we think they're your real names. So, bravo. All right, well, on that very high note, Forrest and I are going to wrap up the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again in a few weeks. This was the Rankings Report.